Hey, it's Connor here with Shopfix, and today I want to share some secrets I've learned to help you make some amazing box lids. One of those secrets is to start with some unique wood. I stumbled upon this free spalta maple log by simply searching ads on Facebook Marketplace. After cutting it to size with a chainsaw, I was able to take this over to my bandsaw to resaw the most figure piece for the box lid. You can also use this technique to create book matched box tops. Once I had these pieces flattened with my planer, I glued them together. I still can't believe I was able to find a section of the log that had this much spalting. It's definitely incredible. I happened to find another portion of the maple log that had really cool burl figuring in a purplish tone, and I used it to create the sides of the box. Now that all those initial steps have been completed, I can move on to the next step, which is cutting the box lid out on the table saw. And I've done two things to make this process go smoothly. One, I've installed a thinner curved blade on the table saw, and so that's going to allow the box to retain some of the consistency of the grain. If I use a regular table saw blade, it's going to cut out a much wider curve, which could mess up the look of the box. I've also clamped on this auxiliary fence, and what this does is it provides more support for the box as I rip it out on the table saw, but also it gives me a perfect 90-degree angle to the table saw. The original table saw fence, at least the one that I have, isn't perfectly 90 degrees. Now, when you go to cut out these boxes and to create the lid, there's two things you're going to want to keep in mind when thinking about the depth of the lid, like what kind of latch you're going to be using on the front of your box. So if it's a very wide latch, you're going to want to make sure that you have plenty of room to install that latch onto the box. Another consideration that you want to make when deciding where to cut your box lid out is the proportion of the box. So you don't want it too thin for a large box, and you don't want it too wide for a small box. And I think lastly would be if you're going to create an inside perimeter inside your box for the lid to rest around, which I'm going to be doing on some of these boxes, then you just want to make sure you have plenty of room for that inside perimeter to rest in the top of your lid. The first thing I'll do to set up this cut is to lock in the table saw fence to the width I want the lid. You'll notice that I don't currently have the riving knife installed, and this is because the riving knife has a fixed thickness that matches the thickness of a regular size curved blade. With this thin curved 7-inch blade installed, I have to remove the riving knife in order to make the cut. The blade height should be dialed in to just above the thickness of the sides of the box. Now I can go ahead and make the first pass, making sure to keep the box resting firmly against the fence and the table saw surface. You can see how this new auxiliary fence makes the box rest at a perfect 90-degree angle throughout the whole cut. To make the next pass, I simply need to rotate the box. The reason box lids are made and cut out this way is so that the box and lid can retain a seamless transition, and so that the grain matches over the whole length of the box. The first two passes can be made without any shims filling the cut curves. However, once you reach the third cut, the previous curve cuts need to be filled with shims that match the width of the curve, so that they fit snugly but do not move the box out of alignment. These wood shims will make sure the lid and box don't accidentally get pushed together through the next two cuts, which would not only be dangerous, but would also make the lid cut inaccurate. Once this third pass has been made, I'll need to rotate the box and also reposition the shims. I'll be using one shim in the front and one shim in the back for this final pass. When making the final pass, just remember that as you make the cut, the box and lid will become detached from each other. To make sure the cut remains safe and accurate, you want to keep pressure into the fence, and the shims we put in will ensure that everything stays aligned and safe as the cut is finished. Once the box and lid are cleared from the table saw blade, then you can remove the shims. By using a taller auxiliary fence and installing a thin curved blade, I'm able to make accurate cuts and also retain a lot more of the grain match, which makes for a seamless, great looking box lid. Even before minor sanding, you can barely tell the box lid has been cut. Sanding a box lid and keeping it perfectly flat can be tricky. To solve this, I use an adhesive back floor sanding pad and stick it to a flat reference board. I can then glide the box lid on top of it to sand it perfectly flat. Another secret that I like to share with you are the decorative frames that I made. The reason that I began creating these frames was to cover up the seam between the box lid and the end of the rabbet that's cut into the sides of the box. The frames feature a beveled inside edge, which I cut on the table saw. I also crafted them from the same wood as the splines and the inside perimeter of the box. Although creating the top frames of the boxes was a tedious, lengthy process, it was definitely worth it now that I see them all put together. I think it creates a very solid box top and a seamless box top. So I really like how that turned out. I definitely recommend that. This is the first time I ever tried doing that. I can't really see the boxes without it. I think it definitely completes the look. Part of the design of the box is just using your best judgment on what colors would work best and what orientation the boards should go in. Although I'd like to dive into the details of these hidden hinges for a separate video, I think this video would not be complete if I didn't show you this last secret. These hidden barrel hinges are the coolest hinges I've ever used on a box lid, and I highly recommend trying them out on your next box. They do require precise measuring and drilling to install them correctly, but once finished, it leaves the box with a very clean look. Well, that's all the secrets I have for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, and please leave me a comment about what you think about these box lid tips. Thanks for watching. Take care.